The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus told his disciples this parable. A man going on a journey called in his servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to a third 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. Immediately, the one who received 5 talents went and traded with them, and made another 5. Likewise, the one with 2, who received 2, made another 2. But the one who received 1 went off and dug a hole in the ground and buried his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants came back and settled accounts with them. The one who had received 5 talents came forward, bringing the additional 5. He said, "Master, you gave me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more." His master said to him, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Since you were faithful in small matters, I will give you great responsibilities. Come, share your master's joy." Then the one who had received 2 talents also came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more." His master said to him, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Since you were faithful in small matters, I will give you great responsibilities. Come, share your master's joy." Then the one who had received the 1 talent came forward and said, "Master, I knew you were a demanding person, harvesting where you did not plant and gathering where you did not scatter. So out of fear, I went off and buried your talent in the ground. Here it is back." His master said to him in reply, "You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I did not plant and gather where I did not scatter. Should you not then have put my money in the bank so that I would have got back with interest on my return? Now then, take the talent from him and give it to the one with 10. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will grow rich. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And throw this useless servant into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth." The Gospel of the Lord. Good morning. No matter what happens, we got to get up and go to work. Why? Because work is good. Work brings dignity to the worker. Brings dignity to the worker. Why? Because when we work, we collaborate with God's plan. It is our way of participating in God's plan. Work gives purpose when it is a part of the master plan of God. We all want to live with purpose, right? We want to be able to get up and say, "I know what I'm about. And I know what I need to do." There's something about doing a good, hard day's work. I remember when I was a kid, one of the only things my mom spent money on when it came to toys were Legos. Every Christmas I'd get Legos. That was my childhood. Legos and Ninja Turtles. Boom. But my mom that was the one thing she would spend money on because she knew, number one, I found enjoyment in it, but it was constructive. You know, as a little kid, you can't do the same type of work as an adult. But there's something about creating that is beautiful. And I remember one Christmas, I got a big space set. It was space Legos. And I spent 5 hours hunched over, piece by piece, brick by brick, putting together this masterpiece of a Lego set. And to be able to, when I was finished, to step back and behold the creation in front of me. There was like a bit of like, yeah, I did that. You know, I had a rule. I had to make whatever I was building look exactly like the picture on the last page. That's the dignity of work. You know, work has always been something that we humans do. Sometimes I think we hear the creation story and we hear about Adam and Eve and we think, oh, work entered into the equation after the fall. And that's not true. No, work became hard and burdensome after the fall. God created Adam as the caretaker of his creation. He said, name all of the creatures that I have made. Adam was a gardener in the Garden of Eden. And because his work was in conformity with God's plan, there was joy that came from it. It is only in the fall that work became corrupted. Our mentality be out the work. But work is good. Again, this is how we participate in God's plan. Become collaborators in creation. You know, there's a common phrase that I've said myself. It's not what you do, it's who you are that's important. And there's some validity in that, right? Right? Our worth is not determined necessarily by what we do, but who we are, right? As beloved sons and daughters of God. That identity brought alive and given to us at baptism, right? And even if you're not baptized, you're still a beloved creation. That is our being. But what that phrase lacks to communicate is that our doing shapes our being. That the more we do virtuous things, the more virtuous we become. That the more we do holy things, the more holy we become. And so that doing is important. It shapes who we are and helps us live in the identity that God so freely gives to us. That's what it means to bring dignity through work. So we know that work is good. And it is how there's a spiritual efficacy of work because it helps us become fully who God created us to be. But it's also important how we work. And I'll give you 2 ways. Number 1, again, from my own experience. As a kid, grade school and high school, I'm thinking mostly high school, right? We all rebelled on our parents in their own particular ways. But my mom would say something as simple as, Zach, go take out the trash. And I'd go, fine, right? And I'd take out the trash. But I lost an opportunity of grace there. And my mom would get angry. And I'd be like, why are you angry with me? I took out the trash. She's like, it's not that you didn't take out the trash. It's the way you did it. Likewise, my mom loves to garden. I hate gardening. Pulling weeds that's going to be my purgatory, right? Pulling weeds. I hate it. So like on a special day like Mother's Day or my mom's birthday, she'd say, for your gift, I just want you to help in the garden. And I'd go, fine. And she'd get upset. And finally I realized it's not just about doing. There's a mentality of work. To be joyful in it. And recognizing that the work we do is important. That was a way in which I could participate in the goodness of my home and show love for my mother. That was a way I could contribute. And it made it more efficacious to do it joyfully, even as hard as it was for me to do it, as painful as it was. And so the first thing is, how do we work? We must work joyfully. And how are we able to work joyfully? We were able to work joyfully because we're able to see how our small little act of work fits into the greater plan. I remember hearing an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is like a couple years ago. And he was saying, because he was Mr. Universe, right? Bodybuilder extraordinaire. And he said, when he was a young man training to become a bodybuilder, a lot of the guys in the gym would be kind of like, I don't really like working out. But he said he would be smiling after every weight that he lifted, right? After every rep, he'd smile. His smile would get bigger and bigger. And he said, do you know why? It's because every rep that I did, every time I lifted weights, every time I exercised, I became closer to my goal. Because these small little acts had a purpose. And it's a reminder for each of us that when we work, to pay attention to the small details. Pay attention to the little things. That virtue in the little things leads to virtue in the big things. Mother Teresa said, it's not about great works, it's about small works with great love. But being able to do the small acts of service, the small little work with great love allows us to do great works with even greater love. That's the beauty of working joyfully, being attentive to the details. I'll leave you with a final image. There are two men, and they're working on the same wall. And you ask the first man, and he says, you say, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm building this wall. It's grueling work. The sun is hot. Lifting these stones are backbreaking. I go home every day completely exhausted and spent. But, it's a job. The same man standing right next to him, who has the same job, is asked the same question. He says, what do you do? Say, I'm building this wall. Yeah, it's hot. It's hard work. The stones are backbreaking. It's exhausting work. I go home completely exhausted. I'm building a cathedral. I'm building a cathedral. My work has purpose. And as grueling as it is, it fits into the greater plan. That is what we do as Catholics. We participate in the work of God. We collaborate with God's purpose and vision. We're building a cathedral to honor our Lord. Let's get to work.